muted. So. Okay, I also see Patricia Algara. Patricia, how are you?
Hi. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
Not a problem. I'm going to post in the chat panel the link to the data set, Patricia. Download both the Revit file and the families folder in the 1010 folder.
I'm just gonna be following along the video today because I'm on my laptop. I'm traveling, so I don't have the software.
Oh, okay.
I'll just hear you.
That's fine. And we're going to have a short class today. I have to stop at 6:30.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I had a quick question on downloading the families folder. Downloaded, and then I tried to just open the files in Revit, and it asks me to upgrade. Does it matter?
Please upgrade. It's not going to let you. I didn't have a chance to upgrade it myself. But we're going to be loading families from that folder, and when we drag and drop the families into the project, it's going to prompt you to upgrade it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So in the Mila house provided in the link, you have this is where we at right now. And in the graphic controls, the graphic display options, when you switch to realistic, the textures actually pop up. The last class I show you how to create a new material from scratch and ways to control and customize the asset. Remember that the assets are coming from an asset library that is read-only. But then we have, once the material is transferred from the asset library into the project material library, then you can customize it, you can change it. All right, so on level 1, if I go to level 1, wait, this is not the file. Oh, this is not the file. This and save it back. The things I added were the partitions, the interior partitions, some doors. I didn't ask you to do this on class because it's pretty straightforward. Just gonna eat up some of my time of the time. I want to save this as a project in desktop. All right, so when you look at the pictures of the Mila house, there is artwork inside the walls. I want to show you now how we can add artwork inside as part of the surface of elements. Under the Modify tab, or actually under the Insert tab, you can link images, or under the Manage tab, dialog box. This back here, yeah. So we go to the Insert tab, and then hit Manage Links. You see that under Images, you have the list of all the images that you have imported into Revit, and it will provide you the name of the image, the size in pixels, where it's coming from, and a path. Your choices is only to import, and what we wanna do now is to select a wall and add some artwork in the surface. And to do that, we first need to insert or add an image. And we do that using something called decal. So under the insert tab, under decal, there's a drop-down little menu where you can place a decal or you can find the decal type. Check for the second one. Again, decal, insert tab, decal drop-down, and select decal type. And a decal, it's an image that has a certain size. It's scaled according to the proportions of the project, and you can embed it in the surface of walls. And it's useful if you're trying to do interiors that reflect a specific type of color treatment or an artwork or a special type of combination of mosaic or if you're doing, for example, a special type of design in a floor carpet, you can actually add an image that reflects that in any of the surfaces. And so to create a new decal, you start by creating it using this button in the decal types. And in here, I have an image that's called a swan. I'm going to call this swan. Okay, these are the properties of that image as they're going to be loaded into the project. And notice that there's something called source. The three little dots next to the source cells allow you to browse the location of that image. And in the family folder that I provide you in the dataset link, I have this on my download folder. So I'll browse to the download folders under the families. There's a mini image called Swan. If you didn't download this image, just feel free to bring any image you have in your desktop. But inside the family folder, there's a Swan JPEG. When you load it, it's going to display the image of a swan. And then you have ways to modify or change the properties of the image. You can add brightness, reflectivity, finish, luminance, if you wanted to have to glow. Or if you wanted to have a texture, you can add a bump pattern image and define the bump amount. The bump pattern is a black and white image that overlay with the texture, and it gives this sort of 3D aspect when it's rendered. Same with the cutout. But I'm not going to add any of that. I'm just going to leave it as is, and then click OK. So this is how we set up decal. That image is going to be on the surface of this wall. So pick the wall that is south of the bedroom.
Cesar, can you repeat again how to pick the image, please?
The decal,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So go to the Modify tab, the last tab in the ribbon.
Yeah.
And then there's a button called decal. Sorry, it's not the modify, it's in the insert tab. Insert tab, and then there's a decal tool.
Yeah. Okay.
And then go to decal types, it's in the drop-down list. And use the create new. give it a name as Swan. And then in the settings, click these 3 little dots to browse for the location of the image. It's in the folder that you downloaded earlier. You should see the image of this one.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? All right. So for this to work, you select this wall on the screen, the wall that is next to the bedroom, and let's create the bounding box or section box. Is in the is this icon in the View tab. This appears when it's in the contextual tab, so it only appears when you select the wall section box, and then the 3D view will be will display this this wall, and it's easier to model when you select an element and you like found it. All right, so there's a piece of art that goes here. And all you need to do is to place the decal. So under the Insert tab, the drop-down list, use this called Place Decal. And this is the decal that I want to place. You can define the width and the height. Right now it's 3 by 2. And then click on the surface. This is something that you can move after you place it. I clicked twice, so I'm going to delete this. And in order to see that, you have to display it in realistic mode. But in the meantime, if you don't want it to consume a lot of RAM, just switch this to shaded, and it's going to look like a rectangle. And then this rectangle can be placed with more precision if you just select it and move it around. Once you have it where it needs to be, you can go back and resize it. This is 3 by 2. You want to lock the proportion, click this checkbox. And again, this is going to display just in realistic mode. Does that make sense? So if you're an interior designer and you want to like have a custom finish that reflects an image, then this is the way to work with decal. Easy, right? Okay. Let's talk about applying different finishes to a wall. The back of these, let's do this. The interior side of the restroom, for example, is going to have a tile up to 3 foot height, and then above that is going to be painted. And so you can easily apply 2 different finishes to a wall by using this command. It's you go to the Modify tab. Let me enable the tooltips quickly. Having a brain fart here. Split face, yeah, and the shortcut is SP. So a split face allow you to define a boundary on the surface of an element that is going to receive a different type of texture. In this particular example, we're going to apply this is a restroom, and 2 feet away from the edge of it is going to have some tile that is full height, and it drops down to 3 feet all the way to the end of the wall. So let's do the same. Select the partition and use the section box to switch to a 3D view where you can actually see the interior of a wall. Oh, and look at that, it's not full height. I have to edit this wall to make it stay on the top to get rid of this opening. So the easy way to do that is to select the wall, edit a profile, and then use the pick line tool. This is what we did last time. Oh, but it doesn't let me do that. Let's just leave it like that. It's going to take some time. So this is the interior side. You can identify it because it has a code. And so the goal here is this: we need to 2 feet away from the wall. We're going to apply a full height tile, and then we're going to switch into 3 foot. At 3 foot high, this is going to have a different tile. And we're going to do this using split lines. So the way a split line works is that you have access to the sketch lines of the boundaries, and then you subdivide it in regions as needed by the design intent. And so to be more precise, I'm going to switch to the left elevation. Again, if you're not with me, the way I created this, you go to level 1, select the restroom wall, this guy here, and then hit the section box or selection box command. It's going to create a bounding box around the selected element. And so in the restroom side, which is bounded by these 2 walls, I'm going to switch to the left elevation, and then I'm going to edit the profile. Edit the profile. And so 2 feet away from the edge, that's where I want to have a split line. And the way to create a split line is you go into the, well, let's exit here. I mean, one thing that we could do here is to fix the boundaries of this wall. So you can just, I mean, to get rid of these opening, this triangle opening, I just created this sketch line. And then I'm going to use the trim to corner to fix its shape. And then hit the green checkbox. Now the wall, it's, oh, there's more of a, that's okay. I have to pick a different line. It's sloping and this elevation. I picked the wrong one. Well, that's not the purpose of this exercise. But in the exterior side of the restroom, we're going to create a split face. So how does this work? I'm going to do this twice if you want to watch it first, and then we'll do it together. Under the Modify tab, you select the Split Face tool that looks like a TV, but it's actually a wall with a little boundary inside. So you click the Split Face and then select the face you want to edit. This is the top surface of the element you select on the screen. And then that's going to sorry, split face, select the face, you see the boundary, the blue boundary around the wall. And this is going to take me to a split sketch line. And if I switch to the left elevation completely using the cube, I can use the pick line tool to offset or to create a new split line 2 feet away from the edge of the wall. So pick line tool, offset 2 feet, and then you select this wall, and you see that dash line. It might not be that obvious on the screen, but you should see a dash line that appears on the left of the selection. This is a visual cue that a new line, split line, is going to be there. There you go. That is my split line. It has a purple shape. And then I'm going to do another pick line tool, and now the offset is going to be 3 feet. So 3 feet above the ground. That is my other sketch line. And so that is defining a new region. And these, all I need to do is to do a little cleanup and click the green checkbox. So using the trim to corner, clean this condition, and then also select this line here and stretch it and snap it to the interior side of the wall. So that's all we need to do. The other boundaries is not that obvious. I'm going to switch to shaded so you can see better, or maybe to hidden line. You see those yellow lines. The yellow lines are the boundaries of the wall. And these sketch lines, all they are doing, it's splitting the surface into 2 regions. This is region number 1, which has this shape. And this is region number 2. And region number 2 is this L shape. And that's the region that's going to receive a different finish treatment. In fact, you can continue doing split lines. And if I do this, you don't have to do it. But if I do this, I'm creating another region there. If I do another line here, you don't have to do this. Now I have 3 regions, region 1, 2, and 3. And each of these regions can receive a different material. So I'm just going to leave it in for 2 right now. It's the spandrel and the full height wall. And then hit the green checkbox. Revit doesn't like that it's extending beyond the exterior boundary. So the other thing I need to do is make sure that this sketch line, it's snapping to the yellow line. Again, this condition is necessary that the sketch line is touching the yellow boundaries. Click the green checkbox. I'm going to switch back to realistic mode. And now I have 2 regions, region 1 and region 2. And so the idea is that region 1 is going to be painted and region 2 is going to have a tile. Any question here? Want me to repeat anything? All good? Okay, so last step is to paint this. So you go into the Manage tab. Sorry, under the Modify tab. And you see that right next or below the split face tool, there's another tool called Paint. And Paint is a shortcut for the material browser. It only displays the library of materials. If you search for tile, you're going to see that there is a porcelain tile material available for you. You click on that material, and then you click on the region that you want that to be applied. There you go. And then if you want to paint, there might be a paint here. This class. Let's do something fun. Let's do it yellow. So select the parking stripe color and then click on the region number 1. This is one wall with 2 finishes applied. You don't have to model the finish in 3D unless you know there's some construction implication and some dimensional things that you need to account. In which case you would you will create a new finish wall that is very thin, and then you model it next to the wall to represent the finish. But this, if you're doing it just like a design intent, and this might work as well. So here you go, 2 different finishes applied to the interior face of the restroom. I don't have time to do the entire restroom, but this is the way you apply 2 finishes in a surface. Any question? You can also do it in the floor. Like if your floor has different patterns, you can draw the patterns using sketch line. But again, I don't recommend that. It's a very time consuming. Instead, maybe you can just add a decal if it has a specific mosaic type. All right. I'm going to return the section box to its full extent. Now let's talk about rendering. There are, I think on the first class or the second class, I show you how to create cameras. And so Revit has 3 different ways of creating high photorealistic rendering. The first one is using the render tool out of the box. The second one is render on the cloud. And the third one is third apps. And in the order of qualities, render tools doesn't cost you anything. You can do it inside Revit. But you have to wait for the user interface to process and finish the rendering exercise. Render on the cloud basically pack all the assets, the 3D geometry of a 3D scene, and send it to Autodesk server, where it's processed by the server. And the advantage of the render on the cloud is that you can continue working in your model, and as soon as the cloud service is finished processing, you get a notification that the render is ready. And then you can open the cloud repository where you can do some post-processing work. And then the third-party apps are all these additional apps that are available. Enscape is one, and I send you information on how to download it. V-Ray is another one. V-Ray is actually pretty good. And then Twinmotion is another one. And there's probably more Lumion. You can choose any of these, and the qualities of all these 4 tools are pretty good. The reason I like Enscape is because it's so easy to use, and the quality is very good, and the price point is on point. I think the annual subscription of Enscape is around $600 per seat. Switch here. This is Enscape. It produced a pretty good quality of renders. And what I like is that it's real-time rendering. It doesn't force the user to be waiting for a render to be finalized. And it's a plugin that works for a lot of authoring tools, including SketchUp, Rhino, ArchiCAD, and Vectorworks. It may or may not run in the Mac. I think I make that clear in the email. But if you get it to work, perfect. Now let's do a quick review on how to create a camera. We're going to create an exterior camera. So you go to the View tab, 3D View, Camera. When you create a camera, it's a two-point step. The first point is the location of the observer, the person who's taking the photo. And then the second click is the target, how far, what is the direction of the camera. And I think by default, this is a 60-degree angle. You can change that angle by changing the boundaries of the 3D view. And then how far you click is going to determine the far offset limit. So if I click here, I'm not going to see anything, but the far clip offset is very close to the observer. So you want to make very long, in particular in exterior cameras, you want to make the second click long enough so they capture most of the geometry. And here you go. This is a perspective view in shaded mode. You can change the visual style again to realistic or to display the textures. I think I showed you last time that you can click on the full navigation wheel to adjust the camera. The navigation wheel, it's available in the vertical panel of the view, and you can use like the tool factor to adjust the camera. You can zoom in or out. You can pan, and these are ways to calibrate, to do minor calibrations to the camera, and then close it using this X. The size of the crop or the size of the boundaries is the size of the printed image. So when you click on this boundary and click the size crop, this will give you the printed size of the image. This image is going to print 6 by 4.5. And when we render it, that's the size you're going to get. You can resize it as needed. And there are two ways to do this. You can scale the field of view, or you can scale the proportions. So for example, if I want to do the image smaller, like 3 by, then I'm changing the size of the image. It's not obvious, but this is retaining the proportion. It's just going to get smaller. Or if you want something that it's going to feel an 8.5 by 11, then just do it here. And scale the proportion. Undo. Select it. Size of the crop. Scale. I'm going to keep it 6 inches by 4.5. That's a decent size. Okay. The properties of the camera can be manually adjusted. Like you see the far clip offset, this distance. That is the distance between the observer and the target that we pick on plan. So if you're missing some geometry, you can extend this far clip offset distance in the 3D view dialog box. You can switch between perspective view and orthographic. Orthographic will make it a elevation. It's gonna look kind of ugly. I mean, sometimes you might wanna do this for like technical elevation in a technical documentation. But I'm gonna keep it in perspective view. Okay, You all with me here? All right, once we have an image that we like, then we can start rendering. The rendering tool that comes out of the box, it's this, the fifth icon from the left. And it will bring this rendering dialog box. And you can select your quality. The higher the quality, the longer it will take to process. You can select the resolution via the screen, so or by printer. Remember that size 6 by 4.5 that is reflected here, or you can select it via the screen using pixels. The lighting, what type of lighting you want to apply it. If we haven't defined any exterior sun, the default location is I think 30 degrees azimuth and 30 degrees altitude. There's just a generic sun there. But obviously, if this is an exterior one, you need to pick the sun. Sun and artificial will activate any interior lighting as well. Or if you want to do like a night one, you can just enable the artificial one. We're going to leave it at this. The background, you can set it to have a cloud, no cloud, few clouds, very few, cloudy, very cloudy. Let's do a sky that is cloudy or few clouds. And when you're ready, you just hit render. So I don't want us to be waiting several minutes to this to finish. This is the standard way of creating renderings. At draft setting shouldn't take maybe 2 minutes to process, so you may want to try it on your own. I need to break the class in like 10 minutes. The other way of rendering is using render on the cloud, and that is available under the View tab, and you see this tool called Rendering Cloud. So when you do that, Revit connects to a web service, and it tells, it packs the geometry and the textures and send them to an Autodesk server, Amazon server. And that Amazon server is far more powerful than your local workstation in order to process high quality image. So when you activate, again, View tab, Rendering Cloud, hit continue. And the dialog box is a little less complex than the out-of-the-box one. By default, it will open the window you have on the screen, the 3D view one. What type of image? You can select a still image. A panorama is going to be 360-degree image. The output is that HTML that you can embed in websites. A stereo panorama is a high-quality version of the panorama one. So use the stereo when you really want to like create a high, hyper realistic one. I'm just going to leave it a still image. Render quality, standard and final. And Revit, the rendering cloud use something called cloud credits. Because I'm an Autodesk employee, I have like 500,000 credits. I don't know how the number that you have on your end. If somebody can tell me, maybe Lauren. Maybe this is based on your subscription. If you have a free
16.
It might be 25 if you have the educational one. But then, and this is the part I don't like, that if you run out of credits, then you have to pay, and it's $1 per credit. I don't want you to use your credits. If this one says 0, it's not going to consume anything. But it starts consuming when you switch like to final. You see, it says it's going to consume 1 credit. I don't have a problem with that, but on your end, maybe you just set it to standard. Image size, the larger it is, the more rendering the cloud credits it will consume. I'm going to make it large. It's going to consume 2 credits. And then you have this checkbox that says email me when it's completed. And that's it. I'm going to do it on my end. And the reason I like it is because it starts processing in the background. You see there's this little circle in the background that's telling you that something's getting rendered on the cloud. And I'm going to get back to this in a couple of minutes when it's finished processing. You receive an email also when it's completed, and with a link to your cloud, your personal cloud repository of image. And it will continue doing that in background. You can continue working. That's the advantage of using the render on the cloud. So these 2 methods are the ones provided out of the box. The last method, which is using Enscape, and I don't know how many of you were able to include to install Enscape. Hopefully it worked. There's a 14-day trial. But again, in my opinion, it's a good bang for the bucks because I think it's 600 for a full license, and Enscape does a pretty good job in doing live rendering. The advantage of a live rendering is that you don't have to wait anything, and then the quality is pretty good. So let me show you while this finished processing on the cloud, let me show you the Enscape plugin. And if you have it installed, that's fine. If you did not, that's fine, okay. As well, just watch it. So Enscape has a very simple user interface that allow you to launch an Enscape user interface that take controls over how your 3D view is rendered. It has general settings, and before I click, the engine is started with the start control, the first icon in the ribbon. But before I hit that, maybe you want to check the general settings. In this dialog box, all these hardware features are enabled. I think you can just leave them by default. It does have a way to swap families from the project with ArcVision content. ArcVision is a company that provides Entourage element, and that's what this checkbox does. And that looks good on my end. I'm just gonna leave it the way it is. All right, there's also an Enscape material library and an Enscape material editor and an asset library. I'm gonna get into this in a second, but let's just get started. Just click start here, and hopefully your machine doesn't crash. I should have said that you may want to save, in particular those of you using Macs. So when you start Enscape, you're going to see that there's a new dialog box that opens that is called Chaos Enscape. And last time I taught this, it was slow because Zoom consumes a lot of RAM. And when I broadcast this live on YouTube and also broadcast it via Zoom, it's sort of, here it is. So I haven't, this is live rendering. I didn't have to wait much of anything. This user interface runs on top of Revit. And then inside Enscape, you have all the different ways to control the quality and the size of the image. Did it work for you guys? Did Enscape, for those who had it, did it work?
Not for me. We just have to click start and that's all.
That's it. Yes.
I did
What do you
that.
What do you see? Nothing.
I have like these 14 days left. So I say continue and then say starting and then just stop. And I don't get the render.
You don't see another dialog box behind Revit? There's gonna
No.
be,
No.
because Enscape has a different UI, and if it's not launching, that means that if Enscape detects that the hardware is insufficient to run, then it would not launch. So I'm afraid that on Macs in particular, this is not going to work. But I get a new window, and then using the mouse, you can get it.
So mine opened, but it's very dark. Like my walls and everything are in shadow.
Okay, so if you see the help, there are ways in which you can change the time of the day. So U and I are the shortcuts to change the time, like maybe 3, 4, 5, 6. The solar angle is Shift plus U, or Shift and I. Same with the solar rotation. These are ways to move the default sun. So I'm gonna just click U, for example. I'm gonna click Shift plus U. There it is, and you see the shadows. This is changing the time of the day, and in my computer, the changes happen almost immediately. It's immediate. It's real-time rendering. Let me know. Did I help with the darkness?
No, it doesn't seem to be helping. It's like there's no sun in mine.
There's
no sunshine.
In your 3D view, in Revit, in your 3D view, under the graphic controls, the graphic controls are available above the visual style. These are ways to control the lighting. And the lighting should say exterior sun only. Can you check that?
Yeah, I have all that. I lined up with you when we were doing that.
You're in realistic. The Enscape will read is basically dependent. It's an appendice of Revit, and Revit tells Enscape what the location and the type of sun needs to be. Maybe a graphic interface. I don't know. Let me see other settings here. In Enscape, when you look at the Enscape window settings, there's visual settings and Enscape window settings, which are two different types of settings. On the first one, for example, there is exposure, which is the amount of brightness. Check it. You may want to increase that, and it's going to brighten up the image in the background. You can see the image respond immediately to changes to the UI. And then the field of view, right now it's 90 degrees. So think about that angle in floor plan is 90 degrees. You can increase the field of view, decrease it. Render quality, obviously will impact the quality that you see in the window. But if you do it like ultra, it's going to consume a lot of RAM. So I don't recommend you to do that, in particular when you're trying to adjust angles and play with camera. These are visual settings. Visual settings are available here. Then we have image. These are post-processing things that you can change. Atmosphere, illumination is another one that can help you increase the sun brightness, decrease the shadow, increase or decrease the ambient brightness. The sky right now, it was brought from Revit. You can override it, make it white. You can also change the fall density of the clouds. Add a variety of different clouds, and these are all the different type of clouds. Again, if these are a little bumpy on your end, it might be the access, it might be the quality of the graphic card. Okay, so when you arrive to an image that you love, you can save it. You can create a screenshot, which will copy to the clipboard. You can also create a stereo panorama or a mono panorama, which are exactly the same one available on the cloud out of Revit. But to save it as an external file, I would just click screenshot. You can choose the type of image that you want, PNG, Targa, or JPEG. PNG seems to be the best format in my opinion. I'm going to save it on my pictures. And then that image, I don't know if it brings it into Revit. No, it doesn't bring it into Revit. But it will give you very good quality that you can embed in your boards or in your Photoshop, etc. So there's more I have to go over, but maybe I'll cover that next class. I have to run to this other event. Any question here? I will close the discussion with some of like the VR and the executable examples. I'm also going to pull the out of the box cloud rendering, so you can compare between Enscape and Revit. I'm just speaking as myself, not because I'm in Autodesk, but I think the third-party apps do a better job on rendering from the out-of-the-box one, and that's why I think we lost the battle with the apps. Okay, I'm sorry I have to let you guys go. Any question here? All right, so next class we will. I'm going to close the discussion of Enscape, and then we're going to jump into the site and topography. We're going to create a site for the Mill House from scratch. We're going to use as a template the images, this type of site. We're gonna add some trees and carve the surface of topo surfaces to be ready for site pools next class. All right, guys. I have to run. I'll talk to you next Monday. Have a great weekend.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you, Cesar.
yeah, see you later.
Bye.
Bye bye.